Sure. So most of my questions were answered. What I'm wondering is, I have read all your letters, but I've never actually read anywhere what you think about. So you have a benchmark, which is DAX, but I don't exactly know if you are targeting to be performing in the absolute terms, like, okay, you're targeting like 10% every year, or you are trying to target, like, trying to beat the MDEX, like how you think about the performance aspect of it. Especially because in the last letter, at least, the worrying part for me was that you say, okay, I'm paying 24 multiple on Facebook, but you have to always consider other opportunities in the market that are available. So in that comparison, it's not a huge multiple to pay. And that kind of worries me a little bit, because this is how kind of, I understand that you have a perspective that it is growing and hence the price is justified, but then you do argue that because the rest of the market is also trading at very high multiples, kind of, this is opportunities that you have been given, and you should look at that. And this is worrying in the sense that I feel like this is where bubbles are created. Like, I feel like at some point you should say, okay, the margin of safety, even if I understand the management is awesome and the company is growing very quickly and stuff like this, there is it's a risky proposition nevertheless. The world is risky. So at some point you have to have like a limit to say, okay, I'm never going to pay more than 20 times earnings or something. You don't understand what I mean, like in that absolute kind of sense. And and that goes, I mean, if you don't invest, then you have cash, right? So that kind of plays with that. So I don't think I made myself clear.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think it's a great question. So it's important to remember that when you're investing, you have to kind of take the world as it is and not how you would like it to be. And there's basically an opportunity set of investments out there, and that includes, of course, every listed stock company, but it also includes cash, and it also includes government bonds and long-term government bonds. And there isn't really a zero position. You're always going to have to make an active decision to be in one of those. Maybe 10 years ago, when cash was sort of giving you a 6% return, and you felt, that maybe stocks were, multiples were approaching, 15, 20 times. You would look at that and think, well, cash looks much more attractive than bonds and stuff, rather than the stocks. But today there isn't really a kind of a zero, no risk position. I think cash is definitely not my definition of a risk-free place to park your money for the next few years. It's returning nothing at a time when there's clearly inflation, at least in the things that most people probably want to buy, like property and that kind of stuff. And there's the risk of crazy things happening. I never thought I would experience it, but I was in India in November visiting companies, and I think it was about the third day of the trip. Well, let me start by saying in India there's not really much in the way of credit cards, so everything you have to pay for in cash. So last thing I wanted to be was sort of short of money while I'm sort of in this unfamiliar country. So I went to the ATM and took the maximum out I could. And the ATM very kindly spat out lots of 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. And when I got back to my hotel in the evening, it was going over the news that as of midnight, 500 rupee notes and 1,000 rupee notes were going to be worthless. And this is the kind of stuff you only read about in books of kind of the money in your wallet suddenly becoming worthless. But it kind of happened, and that's to the extent I was skeptical about cash, I still am. So I don't think cash is a good place to park your money. Long-term government bonds clearly are a great place to park your money. Effectively yielding close to zero for the best quality governments at a time when spending is out of control in governance, especially with the EU, where everyone seems to think someone else is responsible. So I don't think long-term government bonds are an option. So that kind of leaves you with the stock market. And I weigh up all the different opportunities that I feel are in my circle of competence and which I know well enough to make an investment in. And I weigh them up, like I mentioned, across the criteria of the quality of the business and its opportunity, and how much trust and confidence I have in the management, and that kind of wheels it down to a certain amount. And then it's ultimately a kind of a question of valuation. And with valuation, you have to here too, it's not what you would want to pay. It's the best opportunity amongst all the different amongst the opportunity set that's there. So you have to weigh everything up against everything else. And if I look at the market today, I see very, very few companies, at least the ones I look at, trading on much below 20 times earnings. And many of those are growing GDP at best, cyclical. I don't see a huge amount of opportunity in them, to be honest. And then, I take a Facebook, which may be modestly more expensive, if at all, and with all these wonderful things going on for it in terms of the opportunities that lie ahead of it, the people managing it, the culture of the company, and I think it's actually pretty close to a no-brainer.